The silence signaled these stars were silent. The cold dark of space stretched endlessly round the mining ship Iron Reaper. Captain Ren Marlowe stood on the bridge, staring at the empty black through the thick glass window. They were days away from any known colony, hauling rare ores from a dead asteroid field. The crew of the Iron Reaper was small but experienced. They had been together for years, and this trip was supposed to be quiet. No pirates, no malfunctions, no surprises. Then came the signal dot. It was a soft beep at first, barely heard through the normal hum of the ship. Navigator Clay frowned. He tapped his console, expecting static, but the signal came again. Beep, beep, slow, steady. Captain, you might want to see this, Clay said, his voice low. Ren walked over. Clay pulled up the source. It was a distress beacon, weak, very old, and almost lost to time, but it was real. What ship? Ren asked. Clay hesitated. ID tag matches. The Deadliest. Everyone on the bridge froze. The Deadliest was a legend. It was a deep space research ship that had vanished 312 years ago. It was thought to be lost forever, swallowed by a wormhole or destroyed by some alien force. Many believed it never existed at all. But now, here it was, sending a signal, asking for help. Set course, Ren said calmly. Let's go see a ghost. They found the ship 3 hours later. It was floating near a dead star, unmoving, covered in space dust. The lights on the hull were long dead. The metal was scarred and rusted, but the signal was still active, still calling. Ren gathered a small team: security officer Rios, engineer Zara, and biologist Nina. They suited up and boarded the ship through a broken docking bay. Inside, the air was dry and still. No lights, no sound. The walls were covered in a strange black residue, almost like ash. Their boots crunched over shattered glass and old bones. Where's the crew? Rios whispered. No one answered. They moved carefully, clearing each hallway. The ship was massive. They passed crew quarters, labs, and control rooms. All were empty. Zara stopped near a console. Power's dead, but I can reboot the main core. Might give us access to logs. Ren nodded. Do it. Zara connected her toolkit and worked quickly. Lights flickered to life. Some screens came on, blinking old warnings. Nina tapped one of the medical consoles. These logs are corrupted, she said, but something strange happened here. Sudden changes in crew behavior. Panic. Then silence. They pressed deeper into the ship. In the cargo bay, they found something worse. A thick trail of black slime led from a shattered storage crate into a nearby air vent. The metal around the vent was melted, like acid had spilled on it. What the hell were they carrying? Rios muttered. Then came the whisper. Soft, faint, but real. They all heard it. Help. They turned, weapons up. Nothing was there. Maybe it's the wind, Nina said, trying to sound calm. There's no wind in space, Ren replied. They returned to the Iron Reaper with a copy of the ship logs and left the Deadliest floating. Behind them, still silent, still dark. But the whispers didn't stop. That night, Clay reported strange sounds coming from the air vents. Zara found deep scratches on the walls near the engine room, scratches that hadn't been there before. Nina couldn't sleep. In her lab, she studied a small sample of the black residue taken from the Deadliest under the microscope. It moved, slowly, almost like it was alive. She blinked and leaned closer. The sample pulsed. Then it whispered, I see you. Nina stumbled back in shock. The lights flickered. Captain Ren stood in the command room, watching the stars again. He felt something cold pass behind him like a shadow with weight. He turned. No one was there. He tapped the comms. All crew, report to main deck. Now, when they arrived, they all looked shaken. The sample moved, Nina said. It's not dust. It's not mold. It's alive. Zara added, and whatever it is, it's already inside the ship. Ren looked at each of them. No one spoke. The silence was heavy. More than fear, it was something else, like the ship was listening. Whatever we brought back, Ren said finally, we need to understand it. Rio shook his head. Or we need to kill it. Outside the window, the stars remained still, and somewhere in the vent above them, something breathed. The Iron Reaper was never quiet, even in sleep cycles. The hum of machines, the thrum of the reactor, and the occasional hiss of pressure vents created a background rhythm that made the ship feel alive. But tonight, something had changed. The sound was different. To quiet. To still. Engineer Zara woke with a strange feeling in her chest. She couldn't explain it. It was like her lungs weren't working right, like the air was thicker than usual. She sat up on her bunk, rubbed her eyes, and turned on the bedside light. Nothing. The light didn't come on. She frowned and tapped her communicator. Lights out on deck B. Anyone else seeing this? Static answered her, then a faint click, and another one, coming from the ceiling vent. She slowly reached for her tool belt, hands trembling, then thought something hit the vent cover from inside, and she jumped to her feet. It stopped, and for a moment, she thought it was just her imagination. But when she opened the door to the hallway, the corridor was already filled with whispers, not voices. Not speech, just whispers, like wind dragging across broken glass. They didn't sound human. Captain Wren was already on the bridge, reviewing the logs they had downloaded from the Deadliest. The old ship's final entry was strange, a voice possibly. The captain speaking in a low tone. If this reaches you, burn the ship. Don't try to save us. It doesn't belong here. It doesn't belong anywhere. Then the log cut off. The file was corrupted beyond that. Wren rubbed his eyes. We shouldn't have touched that thing. He muttered. Suddenly, his communicator crackled. Captain, it's Clay, came the voice. Something's inside the ship. Wren stood up sharply. Explain. It's in the walls. I saw it moving, crawling. I think it went into the cargo bay. Wren rushed to gather the crew. In a few minutes, he stood in the main commons with Rios, Zara, Nina, and a shaking Clay. Zara spoke first. The lights failed in my room. Then, I heard something in the vent. Metal scraping. Something big. Clay nodded. It wasn't just noise. I saw it. I only saw a part of it, but it was fast and wrong. No legs, no eyes, like liquid muscle crawling sideways. Everyone looked at Nina. She held up her tablet. The sample from the Deadliest changed again. It formed patterns, like neural signals, like it's trying to learn. Wren's voice was low and steady. So you're telling me something alive came with us, something smart, and something hunting, Rios added grimly. They split into pairs. Wren and Clay took the lower levels. Rios and Zara swept the engine core. Nina went alone to her lab against everyone's advice, but she insisted. I need to see what it. Once she closed the lab door behind her and immediately turned toward the containment unit. It was empty. The black mass was gone. In its place were fingerprints. Her fingerprints pressed into the inside glass of the case. Her hands began to shake. Then, from the far corner of the lab, a voice whispered, Nina. She turned quickly, holding her flashlight out. Nothing. The lights flickered. Then she saw it. Just for a second. A shape crawling on the wall. It looked like a shadow wrapped in muscle. No eyes. No mouth. Just a body built to move. It vanished into the ceiling. Meanwhile, Wren and Clay reached the cargo bay. The smell hit them first. Oil. And something burnt. They stepped in slowly. The lights above buzzed and blinked, barely working. Clay, check the crates. Wren whispered. He did. One by one. All sealed. Then, the last crate its top was open. Empty. Wren looked up. There were long scratches along the ceiling. Something had crawled from there into the ventilation ducts. Then came the scream. Not from the cargo bay, from the vents. It was Nina. They raced to the lab, meeting Rios and Zara halfway. They burst through the door. Nina was on the floor, eyes wide, shaking uncontrollably. Her flashlight lay beside her, cracked. It talked to me, she whispered. It knows our names. Wren helped her up. What did it say? It said, it was hungry. Rios looked at the containment unit. Where's the sample? Nina answered. It's not a sample. That was only a piece. It left it behind to distract us. The real body is moving freely now. Zara's voice trembled. Then it's inside the ship, fully. No, Clay said. It is the ship now. That night, the crew gathered on the bridge in silence, outside the glass window. The stars twinkled cold and distant. Inside, the iron Reaper groaned as if something deep inside its hull was breathing. Something alien. Something not made for this universe. Captain Wren looked at his crew and spoke softly. This thing, it's not just dangerous. It's intelligent, and we're trapped with it. Just then, the lights went completely black. Every screen on the bridge went dark, and on the speakers, the whispers returned louder this time, layered with the voices of their fallen comrades, voices they hadn't heard in years. The first kill ship was dark. Pitch black. Only the emergency lights blinked faint red, like a dying heartbeat. Everyone stood still on the bridge of the Iron Reaper. No one spoke. No one even breathed loud. They listened. The voices had returned, but these voices weren't random static anymore. They were familiar. "Help me, Captain. It hurts." It was the voice of Lena from engineering, but Lena had died in an accident last year. Zara backed away from the control panel. "That's not possible," she whispered. Ren's jaw tightened. "It's copying them, voices, memories. It's learning us," Nina added, "and it wants us to know." Rio slowly drew his plasma sidearm. "Then let's teach it something." Back, security footage came back online an hour later. Clay worked fast to patch the broken feed and isolate the last few hours of video logs. What they found made everyone go quiet again. One camera in cargo bay for caught motion. At first, it was just a blur like heat waves bending the light. But then, the shape became clearer. It crawled on walls, melted into shadows, then stood still right beside a supply crate. Then Hicks entered the room. He was alone, checking power couplings. The crew watched in horror as Hicks walked past the crate and the thing followed. Him silently effortlessly it dropped from the wall behind him just as he turned. The screen flickered, then blood then static. They found Hicks' body the next morning, or what was left of it. His suit was still intact. But inside, there was nothing. No blood, no bones, just an empty shell. His face was frozen in shock behind the cracked helmet glass. Zara had to turn away. "This isn't hunting," Nina said quietly. "It's testing." "Testing what?" Ren asked. Nina looked at the data pad in her hand. "How we react, how fast we run, how we scream." The air in the corridor felt colder now. The ship creaked. As if it listened. Ren made the call. "We're jettisoning the Deadliest now." Everyone agreed. Whatever they had brought from the ghost ship, it wasn't just dangerous, it was far beyond human understanding. It had no clear shape, no true form. It changed, it adapted, and it was already inside their systems. Zara went down to the docking controls with Rios. They stood beside the airlock mechanism, prepping the decouple sequence. "Why do you think it let us take it?" Rios asked. Zara didn't look up. "Because it wanted to come." Rios checked the last bolt. "Like a parasite." "No," she whispered, "like a prisoner that finally found a way out." Just as she pressed the final button, system locked. "Access denied." The console beeped angrily. "We've been locked out," Zara said, heart racing. "It's controlling the docking clamps. It doesn't want to leave," Rios muttered. "It wants the Iron Reaper." And suddenly, they heard footsteps behind them. Slow, wet. They turned, guns raised. But no one was there. Only black marks smeared on the walls, sliding slowly toward them like oil. They rushed back to the bridge. Ren slammed his fist on the console. "How is it doing this?" Nina answered. "It's inside the wiring, inside the code. It doesn't need to touch anything to control it. It's infecting the systems like a virus." "Then we shut down the mainframe," Rio said. "Hard reset. That could erase life support." Clay warned. "It already killed one of us." Ren snapped. "We either take back control, or it takes us one by one." They move as a unit this time. No one alone. Nina stayed behind to monitor heat signatures. She had rigged a portable scanner from a medbot to track biological movement. The results were worse than expected. "Captain," she said over the comms, "there's something moving in every deck. It's not just one creature. It's multiple." Ren paused. "Are you sure?" "Yes. It's splitting. Like a fungus. Like it's growing from inside the ship's walls. In the server core." Rios worked fast. The room was tight and filled with humming machines. Zara held the light while Ren covered the rear. "I need a minute," Rio said. He pulled a panel and began cutting the main junction. Just then, a whisper echoed through the vents. "Captain, come see." It was Hicks' voice again. Rios froze. "Don't listen," Ren said. "It's not him." But then Rios heard something else. His own voice. Whispering. Begging. "You left me behind." Suddenly crash. A black blur dropped from the ceiling. It slammed into the floor, screeching like metal tearing flesh. Rios fired twice bright. Plasma rounds lighting the room. The thing screamed and vanished again, crawling into the wall as fast as it came. But it was too late. Rios was bleeding from inside. His chest collapsed as if something had crushed it from within. No wound, no entry point, just crushed from the core. He fell without a sound. Zara screamed. Ren dragged her out and sealed the door behind them, heart pounding. Back on the bridge, the crew sat in silence again. 3 dead now, all fast, all brutal. "We can't fight it the way we are," Nina said. It doesn't think like us, doesn't move like us. It hunts thoughts, smells fear. Zara shook. It killed Rios without even touching him. Ren stood. His face was pale, but firm. Then, we stopped running. He turned to Nina. How do we kill something that isn't even fully alive? She hesitated. We don't, but we burn it. We trap it and burn the whole damn ship if we have to. Ren nodded. Then that's the new plan. But deep inside, the ship somewhere near engineering, a camera blinked on by itself. It focused and zoomed on one crew member. Asleep. Alone. And above her bed, the vent began to open. DNA doesn't leave. Lab smelled like chemicals and cold metal. Biologist Nina worked in silence, her eyes fixed on the sample under the microscope. Her hands were steady, but her heartbeat wasn't. It had been 10 hours since Rios died. 10 hours since the thing had dropped from the ceiling and vanished like smoke. The rest of the crew was silent. No one slept. No one ate. Something had changed inside the Iron Reaper, not just in its systems, but in the crew itself. They didn't trust each other anymore. Nina focused on the black fluid they had collected earlier. It was no longer a puddle. It had shape now. Not fixed, but trying. Like it was learning how to be something, someone. Under the microscope, it moved. It shifted into muscle fibers, then skin, then something else. It formed what looked like a human eye. Nina gasped. The eye blinked. Then a whisper came from the containment box. A whisper in her voice. I'm still you. Captain Wren sat in the central hub, staring at the ship's layout on the screen. 6 decks to remaining escape pods. But now the system said there were 7 crew members alive. He counted again. Nina. Zara. Clay. Himself. That made 4. To Dead Hicks and Rios. So who was the 7th? He tapped the monitor. The tracker showed life signs in medbay, but no one had been assigned there since day 2. He opened the comm line. Medbay. Identify. No answer. Medbay. This is the captain. Respond. The comm crackled. Then came a voice. I'm here. Ren froze. It was Hicks. Alive. No, it couldn't be. He had seen the body. He pulled his sidearm and ran for the lift. Zara sat in engineering, rewiring the manual override for the ship's cooling system. If they couldn't flush the infection, they could at least isolate it by flooding the deck with heat. But as she soldered a panel, she noticed something strange. A screwdriver was already in place, perfectly aligned, but she hadn't placed it there. She reached for it slowly. Then she heard footsteps behind her. Who's there? She said without turning. Silence. Then came her own voice. It's me. I just needed to check something. She spun around. Zara stood face to face with herself, her mouth open, but no words came. The other Zara tilted her head and smiled. To wide. To calm. Zara reached for the alarm, but the other one moved first. Faster than human. Ren reached medbay. It was dark. He stepped inside slowly, flashlight scanning every corner. The bed was empty, but the scanner still showed a human signature. Then he saw it. In the corner. A body. Not just a body, his body. Laid out perfectly. Eyes open, skin pale. Cold. He looked down at his hands. Still warm, still alive. He backed away, confused. Then the lights flickered and something moved behind the glass. His own reflection stepped away. Nina locked herself in the lab. She had seen the footage from the corridor. Zara. Then 2 Zaras. One went into the engine room. The other walked into cryo storage and never came out. She scanned the sample again. The DNA had changed. It now carried human genes, memories, voice patterns, even facial expressions. It's copying us, she recorded into the log. But not just physically, it copies behavior, personality, emotions. It becomes whoever it wants. She paused, which means any of us could be. And now, Clay sat alone in the control bay. He hadn't spoken since Hicks died. He hadn't told anyone, but he had seen something no one else had. Hicks had whispered something before the cameras cut off. Not a scream, a word. Clay. It had said his name. And now Clay didn't know if it had gotten into him. He felt different. Lately he couldn't remember what he ate or what time he slept. Sometimes he looked in the mirror and didn't recognize his own face. Was that how it started? Was he still him or just a shell? He stood up and headed for the bridge. He had to tell someone. But as he walked, a voice called out from behind. His own voice. Clay, wait. Zara stumbled into the hallway, bleeding from her arm. She had burned the fake Zara with a plasma torch, but not before it sliced her shoulder. The thing screamed not in pain, but in rage. It didn't want to be revealed. It ran, melted into the floor. She pressed the alarm on her wrist. Captain, it can copy us. It's moving through the ship in our skin. Ren's voice came through. I know. Meet me in cryo deck. Bring Nina. They gathered in CRYO.Ren.Zara. Nina. Clay walked in last. Quiet. The room was cold. Safe. For now. Ren locked the doors manually. We run a DNA scan on all of us, one by one. The lab scanner is portable now. We'll test for irregularities. That thing can't fake everything. One by one, they tested. Zara, clean. Nina, clean. Ren, clean. Clay. The machine beeped. No markers detected. Wait, Clay said quickly. There must be a mistake. Nina shook her head slowly. No mistake. Clay backed away, breathing fast. You don't understand. It's still me. I'm still. Zara raised her weapon, but before she could fire, Clay's skin began to ripple. His eyes turned black. His mouth split sideways, and what stood before them was no longer human. Burn the ship. Clay's body wasn't his anymore. His skin stretched unnaturally, bones cracked, reshaped. His eyes turned pitch black, no white, no soul. And then, his mouth split wide, ear to ear. Like a zipper opening. The thing inside him smiled. Captain. Ren froze in place. Nina dropped the scanner. Zara shouted, get back, but it was too late. Clay the creature screamed, a horrible sound that echoed like metal tearing flesh. Its voice wasn't human anymore. It was many voices. Clay, Hicks, Rios, and even Ren's own whistling in unison. Ren grabbed Zara and pulled her behind the cryopods. The thing lunged. Nina the other way, rolling behind a fuel container just as the creature's claws tore through the steel wall like paper. The lights flickered. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The cryo chamber was no longer safe. It knew who they were now, and it was done hiding. They fled to engineering. Zara sealed the doors, her arm bleeding from an earlier slash. Nina leaned against the wall, trembling. Ren slammed his fist into a locker. It's not just copying us anymore, he said. It's becoming us. Memories, emotions, language. Nina nodded slowly. It doesn't kill to feed. It kills to evolve. Zara looked up, eyes full of fear. Then what happens when it learns everything it needs? Silence. Then Ren answered, it leaves this ship. They all looked at each other. There was only one choice now. Burn the ship. Zara drew up the plan. We disable all safeties and force the core into overload. Full meltdown. It'll vaporize everything. US, the ship, and that thing. Nina added, we can manually eject one pod, just one. But the system needs 10 minutes to charge it. No more. Ren took a deep breath. One of us lives. The rest hold the creature back. They didn't argue. They didn't have time. The countdown began. 10 o'clock. Zara ran to the reactor chamber to start the override sequence. 9:30. Nina returned to the lab to pull a backup of her research. Proof of what happened. 9:00. Ren stayed near the bridge to watch the creature's movement. Cameras were glitching, but one thing was clear. The creature had split again. There were the heat signatures moving now. One headed toward Zara. The other toward Nina. Zara's hands flew over the control panel. Steam hissed as the reactor heated up. Pipes began to rumble. Red lights flashed across the dashboard. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Fast. Bare. Wet. She turned and saw herself walking into the chamber. Same face, same limp, same injury. Stay back, she shouted. The copy tilted its head. You're making a mistake. I'm the real one. Zara raised her plasma cutter. So am I. She pressed the trigger. The blast lit up the chamber. The fake Zara shrieked, flailing backward into the reactor flame. It burned, melted, screamed in her voice. Then silence. Zara collapsed against the wall, shaking. 8 o'clock. Nina made it back to the lab. She opened her research vault and copied the data to the black box transmitter. But just as she sealed it, she heard crying. A child. A little girl. She turned. There was no child. Then she heard her mother's voice, gentle, kind, from her memories. Nina, sweetheart, let me in. She froze. The creature had gone deeper now, into their memories, into their hearts. Her hands trembled. Then she saw it, her own mother standing in the doorway. Except her mother had died 10 years ago. She aimed her weapon. You're not real, Nina whispered. Her mother smiled. you want me to be. And then she changed into the creature. Long limbs, no eyes, just hunger. Nina screamed and fired. Meanwhile, Ren locked in the pod coordinates .7:00. He spoke into the system log. This is Captain Ren Marlowe. If anyone finds this, no, we weren't weak. We were just outmatched. What we brought aboard was not a life form, it was a virus in the shape of death. He paused. Humanity must never meet it again. Zara limped into the hallway, face pale. Her arm was scorched, but she had finished her task. Then the lights went black. Total blackout. Footsteps came from behind. She turned, weapon raised. Ren. Or was it? How do I know it's you? She asked. Ren stopped. Because I never call you Zara. I always call you Z. She lowered the weapon. Okay, it's you. They embraced for half a second before a voice echoed in front of them. I also. Remember that. Another Ren stepped into the light. Now there were two. One smiling. One silent. One real. One fake. Zara didn't hesitate. She fired between them. The smiling one melted skin, sliding off like wax. Ren exhaled. Nice shot. They reached the pod room. Nina was already there, alive, bloodied, and breathing hard. Ren looked at the escape pod, still charging. .00. Suddenly, the alarms blared. The reactor was overloading too fast. The creature had damaged the cooling valves. They had less time now. 0.90 seconds. Zara shoved the black box into the pod. Ren grabbed the emergency harness. Zara, go. She shook her head. I'm not leaving you. You have to. I won't. Then Nina stepped forward. I will. They looked at her. She was smiling sadly. I'm a scientist. Someone has to tell the story. You two burned the ship. She climbed into the pod. 60 seconds. Ren sealed the door. Zara pulled the manual release. The pod ejected into space, disappearing into the cold void. On board the Iron Reaper, the heat rose. The walls groaned. The creature screamed through every speaker, angry, afraid. Then it spoke clearly. Where will you go, little fires? I am the future. You are dust. Ren and Zara stood side by side in the burning core. Ren gripped Zara's hand. We'll show you what humans do when we're cornered. Zara smiled. Through the flames, we bite back, and then the ship exploded. A silent bloom of fire in the endless dark. No way out. Silence. Not the kind with peace, but the kind that made Nina feel like she'd gone deaf. The stars outside the tiny escape pod didn't blink. They just stared back at her, cold, far, and lifeless. Her hands trembled as she floated. In the dark, strapped into the only seat in the pod, her reflection in the glass showed wide, shocked eyes. She was alive. The Iron Reaper was gone. Ren and Zara were gone. The creature, gone. Maybe. She swallowed hard and glanced down at the black box sitting beside her. It was warm. Inside it, everything. All the logs, all the scans, all the horror. She looked at the console. The pod's auto beacon had activated on launch. A rescue ship would find her in 72 hours. 3 days. Alone. She leaned back, trying to breathe, but she couldn't. Something was wrong. R2. Nina had reviewed the footage again, part of her final report. She forced herself to watch Hicks die, then Rios, then the creature mimicking her face. Her voice. It always started with one thing, a whisper, a faint whisper in the vents. She shook her head. It's over, she whispered. They stopped it. They burned it. She blinked and heard it, a click behind her. She turned fast. Nothing, just a cooling vent near the pod's air filter. She stared at it. It was closed, wasn't it? R5. Nina couldn't sleep. Every few minutes, she heard something move. Not loud, but real. Soft scrapes, a faint tap, like nails on metal. She opened the floor hatch to check the tools. Screwdriver, wrench, emergency med kit. And a cloth. She pulled it out slowly. Wrapped inside was a photo, a group photo, of the Iron Reaper crew. Ren, Zara, Hicks, Clay, Rios. And her. She stared. She had never seen this photo before. Who put it here? Her fingers went cold. She checked the airlock logs. No breach. No sign of anything boarding. But the whisper returned. R9. Nina began talking to the black box. She needed to hear a voice, even her own. I don't know if anyone will believe me, she said, but what we found wasn't just a creature. It was evolution. It was designed to survive, designed to escape. She paused, designed to wait. She stared at the reflection in the glass. Then she asked herself something terrifying. What if it didn't need a ship to escape? What if it only needed the host? R13. She ran another blood test. Just to be sure, she'd stored a sample before boarding the pod. It came back clean. No anomalies. No cell changes. No mimic markers. Still human. Still her. But she tested herself again anyway. And again, each time. The results were the same. Still human. Still her. Right? 17. Nina woke up choking. Her throat burned. She crawled to the sink, coughing up thick black bile. It smelled like oil. She stared into the mirror above the sink. Her face looked pale. Her eyes sunken. And then her reflection smiled. But she didn't. 18. The whispers were louder now, and they spoke in Zara's voice. You shouldn't have left. Then Ren's voice. You brought it with you. Nina. She clutched her ears. No. You burned it. Their voices echoed. You were the door. You're still the door. You are not alone. She screamed and slammed her fists against the control panel. The pod shook, and from behind the vent, something breathed. R2. Nina sat motionless. She had powered down most systems to conserve oxygen. But in truth, she was afraid of what the sensors might find. Every time she turned on a thermal scanner, it blinked for a second, then froze. Heat source detected, then no readings. She stared at the vent again. She was sure now. Something was in the pod with her. Not beside her. Inside her. She whispered, Is that why you let me go? The black box made a soft clicking sound. As if it understood. R24. The stars remained silent. The pod's beacon blinked, waiting for pickup. Nina opened her final log. She was pale now. Weak. Her voice trembled. This is Dr. Nina Rowan of the mining ship Iron Reaper. I am the last survivor. I believe I have been compromised. Her hand shook as she pressed the recording button. I thought I escaped. I thought I survived. But I think it used me. I think it was always the plan. Tears filled her eyes. It doesn't need a ship to travel anymore. She looked directly into the camera. It just needs someone to open the door. Then she smiled. To wide. To calm. And her eyes blinked sideways. One last human moved. A3. The rescue ship arrived. The vessel Starblade came in slow, its engines humming quietly as it locked onto the escape pod's beacon. The retrieval bay opened, and the pod drifted in. Its hull was scorched, but intact. No distress signal, no sound. Inside, it was quiet. To quiet. Commander Lee of the Starblade stood at the loading door, helmet on, sidearm ready. He had read the partial logs transmitted by the black box. The messages were broken, corrupted, terrifying. Something about a life form, something about mimicry. And the last line, spoken in a soft female voice. You are not alone. The door hissed open. Inside, Dr. Nina Rowan sat motionless, strapped to her seat. Her face was pale. Her eyes closed. Her hands held a small black data unit, the ship's recorder. Commander Lee approached carefully. 2 Marines behind him. His scanner read faint life signs. Nina Rowan? He asked. No reply. He touched her wrist. Warm. She gasped. Eyes snapped open. Lee jumped back, weapon raised. But Nina only blinked slowly. Her voice was hoarse. Did you come from Earth? Yes, Lee said. We got your pod signal. She looked around. How long? 71 hours, Lee said. You've been alone. You're safe now. Her eyes darted to the corner of the pod. To the vent. Lee followed her gaze. Something in there. She shook her head slowly. Not anymore. But something about the way she said it sent chills down his spine. Back on the Starblade, Nina was taken to the med bay. They ran full scans. DNA, blood work, brain mapping. Everything showed normal. 100% human. And yet, something wasn't right. She didn't sleep. She barely blinked. And sometimes, when no one was watching, she whispered to herself, in languages that didn't exist. Commander Lee sat with the ship's AI later that night. Run everything again. He said, I want to be sure she's clean. The AI responded. Dr. Rowan's scans matched pre-incident records. No mutations. No infections. Then why do I feel like we brought back a ticking bomb? The AI paused. Because you are human, and humans feel before they understand. Nina sat alone in her room, staring out the window at the stars. She remembered Ren, Zara, Hicks, all gone. The creature had been smart, but humans had been smarter. It had used her to escape, but she had used it back. She smiled, bitter and tired. Because there was one thing the creature didn't fully understand. Sacrifice. Choice. The last human move. Flashback. 30 hours earlier, escape pod, oxygen low, mind failing. Nina had realized the truth. The creature hadn't just escaped on her dot, it had fused with her dot cells, dot thoughts, dot a slow infection, dot it wanted her body, her memories, her ship, and it was winning. But she had made one final move. She had laced her bloodstream with a viral program, a bio-coded bomb developed in secret by Earth's Deep Research Division. It was experimental, dangerous, unpredictable, but it had one purpose, to kill anything non-human inside a host. She had triggered it herself. If she survived, she'd stay human. If she didn't, no one else would pay the price. Either way, the creature wouldn't leave the pod alive. Back on the Starblade, Lee entered her room. Dr. Roan, he said, we're approaching Earth. Final scans are complete. You'll be taken in for debrief and recovery. Nina stood up slowly. Did they believe me? She asked. Lee hesitated. We believe something happened, but most of the files are corrupted. You'll need to testify. They want to know if the threat still exists. She nodded. And for the first time since rescue, she smiled gently. It doesn't. He looked at her carefully. You're sure? She looked out the window at the blue curve of Earth below and whispered, it tried to become human, but it didn't expect how hard that really is. Later, the Starblade sent a secure message to Earth Command. Subject Nina Roan cleared. No sign of contamination, but subject shows elevated cognitive patterns. IQ increased by 30 points. Memory recall, perfect. Fluency in multiple unknown languages. Final note, subject may be fully human, but she's not the same Nina we lost. 3 months later, Dr. Roan sat before a tribunal on Earth. She told the full story. About the Deadliest, about the thing in the walls, about the voices, about the final sacrifice. They asked if she feared it might return. She said, it already did, inside me, but I didn't let it win. They asked what stopped it. She answered, love, memory, pain, things it couldn't copy, things it couldn't survive. The room went quiet. Outside, Earth spun peacefully, but deep beneath the surface of a secure research facility, scientists studied Nina's blood samples. One cell flickered on screen. It looked human, acted human, but every time they tried to split it, it reformed. And deep inside the microscope lens, the cell blinked. Just once.